project that was recently approved for rezoning. And we're just going to briefly review. It's a fairly straightforward application for a sales center for the project. The site plan that was submitted for the project is located on Lot 6, which is a future apartment site adjacent to Laurelwood Road. The building is intended to be relocated for later phases and then eventually repurposed for permanent use on the property or elsewhere. The building comes with 21 parking spaces. I'll just see if we can get the arrow going here, with access off Laurelwood Road. And it is surrounded by landscaping with a dry riverbed feature that runs through the site and a boardwalk entrance to come into the front entry of the building. And I'll show you a better landscape plan as we move forward. The project fits with the Phase 5C of the phasing plan that was adopted with the sub-area plan. So the building can actually stay there for some time before it is needed to be moved. The application also indicates on one of the plans, the landscape plan shows some future model homes. So the sales center is located here on the lot, the future apartment lot, and this shows the parking area and the landscaping and the dry riverbed feature that surrounds the building a little bit better. Behind the sales center is the first group of townhomes that will be part of the first phase of development. The proposal is that these first 5 townhomes will actually become model display homes. Because they're being built as permanent structures, they're not part of this temporary use application. Only the sales center is part of the temporary use application, but because these two are related, the site plan shows them. So there will be a pathway from people to leave the sales center and then enter the block of model homes, which I think from our planning perspective is really an interesting and positive way to handle this on the site rather than having very temporary buildings that end up being removed. These will become the actual buildings that people can look through the homes there. So the model homes will have a separate development permit and building permit process that will come in after the sales center application. For servicing and access, the access will be via Mill Road, the crossing, the level crossing for which the applicants have already received a temporary crossing permit from CN. They will construct Laurelwood Road and Road A, the first road into the development, with typical curb, gutter, sidewalks, streetlights, and on-street parking. So these roads will be built to their final configuration, although they won't be the full width, or at least Laurelwood won't be the full width of roadway. Water will be connected to municipal water via Mill Road, which is probably going to be a temporary connection, but it will be required to meet all fire flows for the property. Sanitary sewer will be serviced via a temporary on-site septic system, likely below ground, for which Vancouver Coastal Health Authority approval is needed, and that approval is underway. Stormwater will be handled through on-site retention and rain gardens that are part of the landscaping design, as well as the required storm sewer connection onto the street. And for flood protection, the temporary building will be built to a final grade. The site is being raised to meet the required flood construction level. So looking at the building design, it's a fairly substantial building, and this shows the sidewalks and parking and landscaping areas. Also, it's a bold building form with I shouldn't say 2-story because it's actually higher than 2-story. When I put this together, I was looking at the actual measurements. It's higher than that. It's actually 16 meters to the peak, so it's in the 3 to 4-story range, the main part of the building. And the lower cedar building is roughly 1.5 stories high. It's a much smaller building. But this is a substantial and prominent building with a lot of glass at the ends, metal clad. Because it's a temporary building, it does not require a development permit, but the applicants in their design rationale indicated that these materials are kind of a precursor to the approach they're planning to take in the first phase of the townhomes that are coming. The materials are meant to reflect the previous marine industrial use and reflect marine warehouses with the bold geometric lines that are there. And just a couple of other elevations showing from a different angle the large areas of glass that are contained there. So the building size is 306 square meters, just over 3,000 square feet. It contains display areas, offices, kitchen, and washrooms. There are a number of sustainable planning features. It's oriented for passive solar design, has a lot of natural lighting, incorporates views to the north and south, I believe, and it again has innovative stormwater management. And the proposed reuse of the building, which is one of the conditions of this permit, again, is part of the sustainable approach to the development. And a couple more elevations just showing the materials and the design. So moving on to the conditions for the temporary use permit. The permitted use is a sales presentation center, parking lot, and landscaping. All construction to flood construction level. All site clearing, excavation, and fill is to be done in accordance with the previously issued site alteration permit. The permit is for 3 years, expires in 2020. And prior to building permit issuance, the applicants are required to provide detailed servicing plans and sign a servicing agreement for completion of all of the roads and servicing. They're required to provide a waste and recycling management plan, meet all requirements for emergency access, and this has been reviewed by the fire department. They're required to provide a traffic management plan and a detailed landscape plan with recommendations that this include a fire smart approach to plantings, again another recommendation from the fire department. The other conditions of use relate to removing the building and site restoration. Upon completion of the use, the buildings, parking, signage, etc. are to be removed, and the site is to be restored and graded and landscaped unless a building permit is issued for the site, so that the site does not just sit vacant once the building is removed. In terms of building reuse, it's a condition of the temporary use permit that the structure is to be removed to another location where a building permit has been issued or recycled, and written confirmation of that is required. Now, the applicants have indicated that because they're building a fairly substantive structure, that they plan to move it within the site, and it may eventually have a final home on the site, possibly in the commercial area. And the landscaping, another condition of this permit, is that the landscaping, once this building is moved, it either be retained or reused as much as possible, because again, the landscaping is fairly substantial on the property. And for security, we're asking for a $50,000 line of credit for the duration of the permit to ensure that these conditions on site restoration and building removal are followed. So the recommendations in the staff report are that the district authorize issuance of the temporary use permit number 53 to permit construction of the temporary sales center for a period of 3 years, subject to provision of security, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the permit.
Thank you very much. Any questions for clarification purposes from council? It looks really cool.
Yeah,
I love the design, actually.
it's a nice looking building.
Yeah, and I think, I know it'd be good to, in the future, streamline some of these TUPs especially for big properties that are obviously going to have a sales center, so we don't create a bureaucracy we don't need. I think this one's pretty significant, so and it's gonna be on this site for quite a while. And, seen from the highway, so I think it's great that it's coming forward as a TUP, but it would be nice to see if we can streamline this TUP process on this type of thing in the future, but another topic. Seeing no questions, looking for a motion. Oh yeah, right, forgot. Because this is a temporary use permit and technically a different use, or changing the use of the zoning to allow for it, there's an opportunity for the public to speak to the TUP. And so I will open the floor up if there's anyone who would like to speak to it. I'll ask for a second time, is there anyone who would like to speak to the temporary use permit? I'll ask a third time, is there anyone who would like to speak to the temporary use permit? There being no one, council can now consider a motion. Councillor Chappelle, you want to move it? Seconded by Councillor Elliott. Anyone want to speak to it? Ideally, they're going to start building this fairly soon. Their intention is to...
Yes, through the mayor, they have actually applied for their building permit, and they plan to get going on it right away.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And moving on to 8A1, adoption of the District of Squamish Revenue Anticipating Borrowing Bylaw number 2554 be adopted. This is moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Chappelle. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Community Planning Infrastructure Development Permit number 465, 28921 Queensway. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jessie Fletcher, planner here at the District of Squamish. Tonight, presenting to you Development Permit 465, located at 38921 Queensway. The subject site is located at the south end of the Sea to Sky Business Park on Queensway, just north of its intersection with Enterprise Way. The subject site has two frontages, one on Resolution Way and one on Queensway. The property has had two previous development permits. The land use designation for this property is employment industrial in the district's official community plan. It is zoned light industrial and is within the flood hazard area. All adjacent lots are also zoned I-1. The development is subject to Development Permit Area 6. DPA 6 is established to regulate the form and character of commercial and industrial development in the Sea to Sky Business Park. Above are two photos of the existing industrial building, which will remain and has since been painted black on three sides. The blue awning will be removed, and the red arrow indicates the area where the addition will go. DP 465 seeks to allow for the construction of an addition to the existing industrial building. The proposed addition is engineered steel with ribbed metal siding. The addition and existing building will both be painted anthracite black, and the new addition will have a strip of resawn cedar siding. The site meets landscaping requirements as per the zoning bylaw and DPA 6 guidelines. Above are examples of some of the predominant planting proposed on site. The purple succulents on the left will line the entryway, along with the yellow flowers and blue grass. A mixture of hardy green hedges, burning bushes, and relocated existing dogwood trees line the perimeter of the chain link fence, providing sufficient screening from the sidewalk. The existing boulders will remain, and the viable planting from the area, which is highlighted above, will be relocated towards the fence. No new landscaping is proposed along the Resolution Way entrance, which staff feel is sufficient as it is a low visibility access. The applicant is extending the existing building scheme by continuing to use painted ribbed metal siding along the new addition while refreshing the color scheme as shown above. Stained Reson cedar will be used to finish one panel of the new addition. Fronting Queensway, pre-finished Reno Bond as shown above will adorn the exterior of the new entryway. The proposal meets all of DPA 6 guidelines. Key guidelines that have been addressed include varied design which avoids a monotonous landscape, a building that is enhanced by landscaping while other features have been screened by the landscaping, and storage and waste have been located at the rear of the site. The project was presented to the advisory design panel on July 27th, 2017. Advisory design panel was supportive of the project as presented. The advisory design panel suggested that the applicant increase the amount of planting to help maintain the landscaping throughout the life of the project, and the applicant did that. Project was posted on the district's development showcase website. District received no request for a public information meeting, so one was not held. Staff recommendation for council to authorize development permit 465, subject to the provision of bonding for landscaping work and registration of an updated flood covenant on title.
Thank you. Any questions for staff on the DP? Councillor Carr?
Yeah, thanks. I was just reading some of the comments from the advisory design panel, and there was a couple other ones in there, referring to green initiatives. And I know we haven't adopted that, but they were talking about breaking up the blacktop with some paving stones. And connectivity from the crosswalk, I thought that, I can't read my little tiny plan, but I
The
should read
comments,
that.
those comments are actually for the next project for development permit for
That's for Cal
5-6,
Yeah.
Council Fire.
Oh, I beg your pardon, I'm ahead of you.
Okay. Are there any questions on this application? Seeing none, and Terry pointed out that on our report here it says line of credit in the amount of 18,776, and up there it's 19,714. Which one do you want us?
The one in the
Consider.
report,
The one in the report?
yes.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to move this development permit? Moved by Councillor Chappelle, as written in the report. Seconded by Councillor Elliott. This is in the covering, I should say, it's not in the report, it's in the uncovering sheet of the agenda.
Yeah, we just waited.
And that's the
It's
correct
the
one?
same in the report.
It's the same
Yes.
report, yes.
I'll call, any comments? Councillor Elliott, Councillor Chappelle.
Yeah, this was easy to like, and it's really exciting to see some of our local businesses expanding, so I'm happy to support this.
Councillor Chappelle.
I feel the same, and I like the use, first of all, I like snowmobiles going in. And and having motorsports in that area is great to be able to access that all locally and expanding local businesses.
Yeah, and it's improving the business part. It's a good job. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Depending, motion carries. Next up, 9A2, Councillor Pryor, development permit number 456, Cal Tire.
Just for a point of order there, these comments are in this package on this. permit. 465, right?
We are just on to, wait,
Well, then I thought I mixed up the package here.
there's 465 and 456, so it is a little confusing.
Yes, the agenda includes minutes for the whole meeting, and the meeting has both
Oh,
of those applications.
Ah, but I still only have 465 in my package, I don't have 456.
In your agenda package?
That's right. Okay. Carry on.
I suspect you do have 456 in your agenda package. It's on the next page. Page 60 of your agenda, Councilor. Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jessie Fletcher, planner with the District of Squamish. Tonight I'm presenting to you development permit 456 located at 117 Industrial Way and 38930 Queensway. Subject site is located in the Sea to Sky Business Park at the corner of Industrial Way and Queensway and is made up of 2 separate lots. This is the first development application the district has on record for this property. The land use designation for this property is employment industrial in the official community plan. It is zoned light industrial and is within the flood hazard area. All adjacent lots are zoned I1. The project conforms to the zoning bylaw and the development is subject to development permit area 6. DPA 6 is established to regulate the form and character of commercial and industrial development in the Sea to Sky Business Park. Above are 2 photos of the existing Cal Tire building, which will remain. The blue awning will be removed and replaced with a wood timber entrance and a dark gray metal cladding roof. The red arrow shows where the new entrance will be located on the existing building for retail. The building, currently white, will be finished with a light gray, and an orange band will be added, while the existing orange accents you see there will be repainted. DP 456 seeks to allow for the construction of an addition to the existing industrial building to expand Cal Tire's operation. The new addition is 3 meters taller than the existing building, varying the roof line between the 2 buildings. The site meets landscaping requirements as per the zoning bylaw and DPA 6 guidelines. Hybrid trumpet creepers have been integrated along the interior storage fence as per ADP recommendations. Gold flame spirea are planted along the majority of the frontage. It's a small shrub that grows about 6 feet tall. Permeable pavers have been integrated along the main pedestrian access, and 5 concrete planters are proposed along the retail frontage. The applicant has proposed the same materials used in the existing building while refreshing the color scheme by eliminating the existing blue and white and replacing them with a combination of light gray and dark gray, along with the brand's international orange accenting the building. A stained cedar timber structure has been added to the entryway. The proposal meets all of DPA 6 guidelines. Key guidelines that have been addressed include screening of the storage with attractive plantings, varied roof line to reduce the appearance of a monotonous landscape, and landscaping throughout the site to enhance the appearance of buildings while screening the parking from the road. The project was presented to Advisory Design Panel on July 27, 2017. The panel was generally supportive of the project with recommendations to resolve with staff prior to council. The applicant addressed the majority of the recommendations, including additional planting on site and along the storage site on site, as well as the addition of permeable pavers and a pedestrian walkway. The project was posted to the district's Development Showcase webpage. The district received no request for a public information meeting. No meeting was held. Staff recommendations are for council to authorize development permit 456, subject to the consolidation of the 2 lots, provision of bonding for landscaping work, and registration of a flood covenant on title.
Awesome. Any questions for staff? Councilor Carr.
I'll try it again. How about connectivity from crosswalk? That was one of the recommendations.
If we go back to the site plan, sorry, I'll just pull it up over here. On the screen up above here, they added a pedestrian walkway that then leads to the crosswalk there. They did not add an additional pedestrian crossing here, which staff felt was okay considering the main pedestrian access was going to the retail center here.
Councilor Kent.
Because we're building on, against an existing building, do they have to conform to FCL with the new one?
They have in a flood report from a geotech that approves the level that they're going on, so it's a variance from what the FCL is, but it's been approved by our staff as okay, subject to a flood covenant registered on title.
It would have been a little incongruous if they had to go to full height. Good.
Councilor Schmidt.
I'll move the recommendation.
Is there a seconder? seconded by Councillor Kent. You want to speak to Councillor?
Same as the other one, it's nice to see local businesses expanding, and I really like the updates and the things like the new, the pedestrian connectivity and everything, it's better design.
Yeah, I think it's great to enhance this site. It's been sitting in its present condition since it's been built, so nice to see it spruced up a little bit and facelift, so congratulations.
Yeah, this is a high-profile corner within the business district, so it's great to see the improvements and looking forward to it. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. Next up, WWTP Automation Upgrades Hardware Award.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. My name is Matt Simmons. I'm the district's capital projects manager. The report before you here is for the award of our hardware upgrade for the wastewater treatment plant automation upgrade, which is one of our projects in this capital year. To start off, we were in council on July 25th to award the design work to MPE. And since then, we've been hard at work with our project team, sorting out the existing system and how we're going to replace it. So to put some context of that, we've got 2 computers that run the automation system at the wastewater treatment plant. One is 25 years old and the other one's 14 years old. So you can imagine how far computers have come in that time. And it's such a challenge for our staff to maintain that hardware that we can't actually purchase that anymore. We've got to look for used on eBay and things like that. So this is a very timely project, and we're looking forward to getting this rolling. So as part of that, we replaced the computer that controls the process of the wastewater treatment plant and roughly 6,000 points that are all connected. So we're really rewiring the entire plant. As I discussed in the July 25th meeting, it was really important to have our operators and our IT as part of this project team, because the pressure that's going to be on our staff to run the plant in hand while we're doing this work is going to be critical, and it's going to be a lot on them. So they've been at the table for the entire duration. Another one was that today we had our mandatory site meeting for the electrical component of the project, and that went really well as well. So that closes on September 28th, and we'll be looking forward to push that through council in an October regular council meeting. The reason why we've chosen Allen Bradley hardware, I've included in the report, but really one of the biggest challenges for us there is over the course of the years, the 1990 upgrade, the early 2000 upgrade, we've been left with a lot of different type of hardware, and it becomes really difficult to maintain that. It becomes very difficult to troubleshoot. And with this award, we're trying to build some consistency amongst some of the newer hardware that we've got there. And all of our variable frequency drives for all the motors, all the fans, and all those pieces of equipment are Allen Bradley. Our recent upgrade to the centrifuges in 2013 are Allen Bradley, as well as our bar screens and our recently added UV system there. As part of that, Allen Bradley having that integrated architecture really is going to set the pace for our crew to be able to maintain that moving forward, and that's critical. I've included the budget table here that shows our budget and where we're at currently. September 28th, we'll have the pricing back on the electrical, and we'll look forward to pushing that through. Again, just talking about the policy piece here, Allen Bradley only distributes through Westburn in Western Canada. So we have gone out to them for the pricing on this, and we've worked with a regional sales manager for Western Canada to ensure that we're getting the best pricing. A bit of a contradiction to some of our policy where we're trying to get competitive pricing on it. It's just not available unless we just rolled it into the general construction contract, which we've peeled this piece out in order to fast track this. There's about 4-week lead time on this, so we'll, with some approval tonight, we'll be able to have that hardware on hand when we award the electrical contract. Outside of that, we're really looking forward to getting this project done. It's really critical to the plan. I open it up to any questions for council.
Given that you're changing the computer system that's 25 years old, what's the learning curve going to be like for staff that's running the new system from the old?
Stuff's changed so much in that time that just the pure functionality with using a mouse and having it historical and having a screen with graphics, I mean, people were, our staff were definitely drooling in there, and I think it's really gonna help them moving forward, and certainly with the planned capital upgrades, it's gonna allow the integration for the projects that I work on to be easily integrated in there. One of the challenges, even with our new UV system, is I'm trying to tie in fiber optic into a computer from 25 years ago, and it's not quite working right now, so.
Welcome to the 20th century.
Any other questions? Don't see any. Council's appetite to support this? Moved by Councilor Kent, second by Councilor Fire. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, any? Motion carries. Thanks, guys.
You're only as good as your tools.
Where am I? Landfill vertical expansion capital expenditure update.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Chris Wickham. I'm the Director of Engineering. We are here this evening to provide an update to Council on the vertical expansion project and capital expenditures to date, and to ensure that the necessary capital expenditures authorities are in place. We discovered in the Phase 1 tow berm portion of the project that we had a policy problem. That we had contradictory or absent change order policies within our, not only district policy in the bylaws. This was discussed briefly at the Finance and Audit Committee on September 5th in general terms. We're here to give you an update on the impact on this project and to make sure that the authorities are put in place. So in particular, when we are awarding some tenders, they're based on a unit rate contract through the standard MMCD contract language. And we received 2 resolutions from Council. The first is to award in a certain amount, which is based on the engineer's estimate of the unit amount, so there will be. And the second resolution is to sign, to have the mayor and corporate officers sign the contract, and that's a unit rate contract. And so in situations where we find conditions on the ground different than expected, we sometimes run under and sometimes run over on the actual contract amount following that unit rate contract. And we've discovered that although we do have a change order policy for contracting and engineering contracts, we don't for tendered contracts. So staff are working on a solution. We've reached out to sister municipalities in the area of a similar size and are looking at the ways that they get around this problem to allow projects to proceed in a timely manner on the ground. But at this point, we are anticipating bringing a revised policy to Council in the coming weeks. I do want to emphasize, so we're here to, in the meantime, make sure we plug the gaps in this case. I do want to emphasize that in all cases, staff hold as sacred that we are within the terms of the contract as signed by the mayor and the corporate officer, and that we're within the budget, within the financial plan that has been approved by Council. In particular, the landfill vertical expansion project is a very time-sensitive project. Staff have been very aggressive in pursuing and trying to keep on schedule as well as on budget because there is a risk of requiring emergency measures to deal with our solid waste in early 2018 if we don't remain on schedule. And staff are very concerned about the potential delays for as well as cost increases in standing down the contractors in order to seek approval at the time. And so we are here, unfortunately, after the fact, to seek approval for the additional expenditure. So Matt Simmons, our capital projects manager, will run down sort of the technical aspects of the changes to scope.
Yeah, so on the first phase of the construction, we were out there building the tow berm, which is basically allowing us to build this wall that is going to be around to allow us to create this airspace for solid waste in the community. As part of that initial geotechnical work, we found some very poor ground conditions in some locations. In some cases, that required the tow berm to be widened. In some cases, it required it to be moved altogether. The result of that was that the pure volume of material that had to come into the site doubled. And so our contract initially, when it came to council, was for just over 17,000 cubic meters. In the end, when we wrapped up phase 1 of the construction at the end of July, that number exceeded 35,000 cubic meters. I think those are the reasons why that generated the cost increases to the contract. The pure unit rates from 17,000 to just over 30 was just purely on the unit rate that was in the contract. The best part of this is that our cost of gravel and the cost for us to move this, because we're taking it out of lot 69, which is very close to the landfill, and part of the other discussions about our reducing costs in this capital project allowed that to be done very quickly and very cost effective. So, we were moving anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 cubic meters per day. So that gives you some idea of how quickly and how many pieces of equipment we were using to complete this work. I think moving forward, I've got some direction. There's a couple policy things, obviously, that need to be resolved. But in the meantime, it'll likely require staff to be in front of council a bit more when we come into some of these situations, recognizing that the vertical expansion of the landfill is quite unique as it relates to a lot of the contracts that we have out there, and specifically this project together, is that if we're not able to get this complete, we're going to be facing some forced costs at our solid waste up in the landfill that we're ultimately trying to avoid. So that's the basis of the first resolution. The second resolution is that when Spurling Hansen was chosen to complete the design work for this project in October of 2016, the idea was trying to get this to a point where it was tendered. And there was no consideration for what's going to be the duration of construction, what's their role, how are they going to be a part of that. And so the second resolution here is, by taking this opportunity to get in front of council to check in on these pieces and ensure the authorizations are in place, that's another resolution that we require in order to proceed with the construction, in order to have Spurling Hansen on the project for contract administration and their site inspection.
So, go to questions, but I think we'll deal with both separately, just because they're two separate issues.
Okay.
Councillor.
Just a question, I guess, she's not here, but to our CFO, just asking about funding for this and where the funds would come from.
CFO is.
Our acting CFO, Linda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. So this aggregate here runs about $400,000. So I'm just curious as to where those funds would be drawn from to cover this unforeseen.
To be honest, I'm not sure at this point where the funds would come from.
That's honest.
I can speak to that. So the budget table that's included in the report is the same budget table that I had in front of council when we awarded the vertical expansion phase 2. All the numbers are the same as they are in this report as they were in that one. The 2017, and 2018 current capital plan for the vertical expansion exceeds $4.5 million. And so this budget table details out all of those costs, including Spurling Hansen's contract administration and site expansion. It doesn't speak to the funding sources there, but as far as the overall project limits and the budgets that are associated with this project, that's in the table that's in front of in your
Which
report.
is part of the 2018 budget, part of
It's,
That's
it,
correct.
which has not been approved.
to clarify on that point, Mayor, this was for the 2017 financial plan and was approved. So we're within budget, we're within the financial plan.
Okay, you said 2018 too, so I was.
Yeah,
To
this-
clarify, it hasn't been approved yet, in case somebody's listening who's worried that we approved the 2018 budget. We have not. Any further questions?
No, thank you.
No. I guess I'm all for making sure we're being efficient in our bureaucracy and all that kind of thing. The reason why we have some of these checks, and we talked about this in the finance committee, is that we don't have scope creep, that we're doing in a public way any kind of big changes to these tenures. So there's a reason why we do it in a council way, but we don't want it to be unnecessarily bureaucratic. So that's where the fine tuning needs to come in. This is not scope creep. This is just simply underestimation and overestimation within the project. Is this scope creep?
Is this scope creep? I mean, from the perspective of Phil, it's 200% of what was anticipated going into the project, so there is more scope there, there's no question. The reason for that scope is founded on good engineering practice and finding that we couldn't build a wall that was buried on previously buried garbage or other material up there. So, you know, I guess that's where the clarity on the policy piece moving forward is going to have to deal with some of those things. But to confirm with council in the meantime, if it requires that staff are in here more to update council as it relates to projects that have risks like this associated to it, I think in the meantime, the commitment from us is that absolutely will be in here. The challenge for us is when you're moving 1,000 to 1,500 cubic meters per day, you know, that requires a pretty good crystal ball. And so we're again going to have to do a better job at forecasting that out, and we'll do that.
And I think the challenge with this is that we're under a timeline. Ideally, we wouldn't be under this timeline, or we could do the piece in a different way, but we're under a timeline, we gotta keep up. Ted,
Yeah, thanks. I'm surprised that we didn't catch the substrata when it was tested, you know, prior to doing the estimate. You know, you didn't drill around the perimeter to see what subsoils were down there, or that wasn't done?
Through your management, we absolutely did.
Okay.
Thurber Engineering was retained as a geotech for the project, and a number of drill holes were done to significant depths around there. It took some of the local knowledge and the historical knowledge from the landfill operations for us really to pinpoint an area that was the result of where this wall was going to be built to ensure that we had the strength underground to support a 10-meter high wall. So
Well,
again, absolutely. I mean, the lesson learned is, you know, maybe a few more holes and digging into this thing earlier would have been better. But from the perspective of me being in council 3 times in this year to fast track this thing all the way back from March when we were going after it to ensure that we got the trees down before the nesting season, and then phase 1, and then subsequently phase 2, and we're currently
we've been under a timing gun on this for a long time. Believe me,
Absolutely.
every time you're in here, we hear about it, so we understand that.
No,
Anyway,
I would just add to that, through you, Mayor, that this is a particularly tricky area in that we're looking at historical practices where in some cases there's burying in trenches. And so you drill holes and you get lucky in where you hit. And so the preliminary investigation didn't find this area. When we went back, as Matt soon said, into areas that historically people knew maybe was a bit iffy and got more granular, then we found some trenches of soft material.
Councillor
so just one more question. So that's 13,000 cubic meters. The good thing is we're taking that out of our own gravel pit. So we approved that gravel pit last year, and had we not, we would have been trucking that a lot farther. There is a little bit of a cloud there.
This is Jeopardy, you have to put that in the form of a question.
Well, I was gonna, no, I'm just saying, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's the good thing
Councillor
about
Scott.
it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
we're saving that much, but
Councillor
I'm
Scott.
also surprised that we had that big a buffer that we can, so I'm thinking at the end there'll be a little savings too if we got those kind of buffers in there.
do my best.
Thank you.
No, that's good, that's good.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. I was actually going to point out the time constraints and how many times, I mean, it's not even just this year, it's been in for years, and we actually turned it down before we brought it back, and so I think that it's, you know, I think staff has actually done a really excellent job of predicting as much as possible. I don't think it's possible to actually, when you're dealing with landfills, you don't know what you're into, and you can't core sample every single feet to see what's buried. You guys anticipated as much as you could, and estimated. I think that it's actually a really terrific job that you've done. So
Any questions?
I have no
We don't have a
questions
motion on the floor
outside
yet.
of
Well,
that crazy timeline.
It wasn't a question, but to your credit, when you're building a 10-meter high wall on questionable soil, you want to make sure you get it right, so
Yeah.
Councillor Elliott.
thank you for that.
I'd like to put the motion forward.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we have something to comment
Let's do
on,
that.
seconded by Councillor Chappelle. Councillor Elliott.
I appreciate staff's effort, and I know it'll be an ongoing effort to balance the policy piece with sort of the pressures of getting large capital projects.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I just wanted to make sure they're separated out and not.
You want to do them separately?
So different,
Okay.
they're specific, so.
So I'll move the
That's
first
been
one.
moved. That's been moved, just the first and second one. I'll call the question, all those in favor, opposed, defending, motion carries. And the change order for Sperling Hanson Associates and the amount of $177,996 for contract administration, construction inspection plan for vertical expansion project. I understand why you're doing this. It feels a little bit like soul sourcing, but it almost should have been part of it up front, but it's a pretty big contract expansion for this, performance. So I don't know how, is it soul sourcing? Does it adhere to our purchasing policy?
It does, yeah. It's not soul sourcing in this case.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Chappelle, seconded by Councillor Kent. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Is it oversight now?
Human Resources and Public Safety, appointment of animal control officer, that Teresa McKinley be appointed as an animal control officer for the district pursuant to the community charter, and that Teresa McKinley be appointed as a bylaw officer for the district of Squamish pursuant to the community charter. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Black and Wolf. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. Congratulations, Teresa. And correspondence for action, we've got a letter from Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and Gary McIsaac from UBCM. There's a motion to receive and refer to communications staff. I will move that, seconded by Councillor Black and Wolf. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. Good job, everyone. There is a letter from Ms. Boucher regarding traffic.
Chair.
Yes.
It talks about this letter being about municipal affairs and housing, but it's actually about our achievements on our
Pardon.
carbon.
All right. It's signed by local government division ministry, so it's, I think that's why it says.
Okay, that's why.
But it is about our,
All right,
that
thanks.
we brought our carbon, our operational carbon down. Yeah, that was kind of weird, but I think it's because it's an agreement with UBCM, this program, so that's why it's through that ministry and not climate change or other. Moving on, there's a letter from Ms. Boucher regarding traffic calming on the Westway. And it's recommended motion that we receive and refer to the Director of Engineering for, are we looking for that to come back to council or to communicate directly with Ms. Boucher? Council? I think if there's anything significant, obviously it'll come back, but at this point, we'll just refer to staff. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Kent. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. Mr. Erickson, regarding the highway overpass at Alice Lake, and again, concerned by a citizen about that intersection and the ability for cyclists and even cars just to get across that intersection, and pedestrians. So there's a motion to refer to staff to work with MOTI to help improve that intersection. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Kent. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. This is not the only intersection. Sorry, I should have talked about it before I called. But this is not the only intersection that has become an issue with the highway. So I think, and maybe I'm looking to Ms. Glende maybe to think about, we need to come back and maybe look at all of these east-west. We knew that this was going to be a problem when the highway expansion project, this east-west connectivity, and it's become more and more evident, particularly at these uncontrolled intersections. And so I think there's a bit of a more comprehensive approach we need to take in terms of all that interface with our community and the highway. It'd be good to, with the new access egress into Dowwood Drive, to see if that's changed traffic flow patterns with the highway, both at Garibaldi Way and in that area. I don't know if hopefully we've measured something there with that change, so our MMTI's measured something there, but it'd be good to sort of do a bit of a critical think on all those interface issues with the highway. Okay, where are we? Yeah,
Just my letter.
well, I'm just going through the ones for action, and then So the next one is dogs off leash. It's another, can we refer it to Director of Public Safety and HR for a response? And also, we talked about, from the beginning of this term, an off-leash, a proper off-leash dog park. Is that coming back to council?
Mayor Hines Kennedy is coming back to council. Staff have been working diligently with First Nations and other stakeholders on finding a parcel to do that.
Okay.
And it is moving forward.
Okay, so there's a motion referred to staff, and then hopefully we can bring something back so there's actual designated off-leash dog areas so people have clarity about what to expect on certain trails. Moved by Councillor Spell, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favor, opposed, motion carries. There's a correspondence from Gavin Gill regarding cannabis regulations. There's a motion to refer to staff and to send the response in accordance with our current bylaws and policies. It'll be hard to comment on what the federal government will do because we didn't know yet, so that's part of the waiting game. Councillor Elliott.
Do we have a meeting with our MP coming up? Because there's a few issues that
We can,
may impact our budget next year. It'd be great to sit down with her.
actually, maybe we'll just put a note that we'll contact Pamela Goldsmith-Jones and set something up. 'Cause, yeah, there's a number of issues emerging that was great to talk about. Thank you. So moved by Councillor Spell, seconded by Councillor Black and Wolf. All those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. And then there's concerns about child safety issues on Perth Avenue. Again, there's a motion to refer to bylaw and engineering for response. Moved by Councillor Chappelle, seconded by myself. Councillor Chappelle?
So I've actually received quite a few phone calls from mums up on Perth, not just one, but multiple calls. And it's interesting that our road design, the biggest thing, and there's an article in the paper, there's been a bunch of upset citizens on speed limits and everything. We keep on talking about bringing back a conversation about lowering speed limits in residential neighborhoods. Currently, our roads are designed for high speeds, especially in Perth, and there's a bunch of Westway Avenue, and it's funny that all the letters show up sort of at the same time in an article that's in the newspaper. But our roads were designed definitely for speed. And the residential neighborhood speeds are becoming excessive. I experience it living downtown, walking around, that people are doing 70 and 80 kilometers on side streets. And as our town densifies and we don't have that many collector roads, we're gonna have to address speed limits in our community. And especially Perth Avenue is, it's all our mountain biking infrastructure is at the end of Perth, and so you get a lot of tourists, but it's locals as well getting to the highway in the morning. I'm not sure if we put in speed bumps. We need to address this basically through either speed bumps or lowering the speed limit immediately.
So I think, unfortunately, the problem is that people are exceeding the current speed limit, let alone.
I know, exactly.
So I think there's a bigger comprehensive, it's interesting, you brought up, maybe there's something to this effect in the good neighbor bylaw or policies that people are driving around their neighbors' kids, their neighbors are driving around their kids, and we're the ones speeding, the people who live here. But I think you're right, the streets are designed to encourage people to go faster than they should. So that refer to engineering to see if there's some design elements that can be done to help.
Didn't we have a conversation about 30 kilometers an hour though coming up, and we asked it to be in an agenda to have a discussion on moving speed limits in residential neighborhoods to a lower speed limit, to have a conversation
It
about
was
that.
never a direction to staff to do
Yeah, I'd
that.
like to.
Okay, we've got one motion on the floor already. Councillor Elliott.
So I know that the conversation about speed, this particular letter is really about safe routes to school and parking. So be great to have our safe routes to school coordinator sort of pick this one up as well.
Actually, that's a good, we'll add, can we move it? Is it on the thing? Yeah. Can we maybe include our, not only director of public safety, but our transportation coordinator, sustainability coordinator, as well on that issue. Call the question. All those in favor, Opposed? Motion carries. We can put speeds on a community development or a public services committee.
Residential neighborhood speeds.
Yeah, we'll put it on a committee and figure out which agenda we have room on. We'll put it on one of those.
Okay, do I need to pass a motion? Because I know I've said that before.
One councillor saying stuff doesn't mean stuff happens. So if you want a motion
I will put forward a motion
to refer speed in residential zones to committee meeting
Yes.
in October.
I'll second that.
Seconded by councillor Carr. We'll call the question, just so it doesn't lose track.
Exactly.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And now we're down to correspondence for information. Councillor, are there any letters that would like to be pulled for discussion? There's Welcome Island and Shoes coming up. Yes, Councillor Carr?
Well, the airport one, I just, a brief discussion on that.
From the chamber? Is that the one from?
It's number 3.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's not from the chair.
The privatization one?
Yeah, it was,
We have no plans to privatize it.
I just wanted to make sure this information got to the airport people. I mean, sounds like somebody's looking at privatizing all airports.
I don't think we are. We've had no discussion about privatizing it. Anything else you want to say about that?
No, I just hope that you can forward that to the local airport. Do I have to make a motion for that?
I think if you forward it to them, you're going to want to put context around it, because they're going to be like, are you supporting it? What do you want? So you can't just forward it to
Yeah,
them.
well, another thing that would be good would be to have a quick discussion with the airport sometime, because I know in the last four years anyway, we haven't had the airport people in here to talk to us. And so maybe we should initiate a discussion with the airport people just about general goings on out there.
Linda?
Mayor Heinzman, at a staff level, just an update to council that Kate Mulligan, our economic development officer, as well as our engineering department, have been meeting with the airport about the current status of the Chica fan and the desire to, maintain the economics of the airport, but also understanding the complexity of that area. So they have been in touch with staff regularly of late, just as an update.
Yeah. Yeah, Councilor Blackmore?
Yeah, and I'm wondering if there might be a bit of confusion because unlike, say, the Vancouver International Airport, our airport, we own it,
Municipal
district
airport.
owns it. So as opposed to YVR is owned by the federal government and the federal government is floating some ideas about privatizing. So maybe just to double check that I don't think that applies to Squamish.
I sort of looked at it as a bit of a form letter, sending it out to everywhere. Maybe I was simplifying the letter. Any other letters to be pulled? We are getting a lot of development letters about the development on the Teardrop property. I'm assuming they're all being collected for future agendas. We haven't seen the proposal, so it's hard because we're getting all this feedback from the community, and I haven't seen the proposal, so I don't even know how to react to it because I don't know what they're talking about. So, anyway.
Mayor Heinzman, when you say being collected for future agendas, are you referring to the actual
With the
development
when
permit that's coming?
the
Yes.
permitting process will start. Okay, motion to receive, yep.
If I may? Just wanted to, it's not really pulling it, but I just wanted to mention the letter that we did get from Welcome Island and Shoes from the House on Women's Center. So if anybody out there is interested, Saturday, September 23rd at OCM Pavilion. Registration is at 10:30 and all the funds go to the House on Women's Center Society. And should you complete the walk, you will be a recipient of one of these marvelous items. Hopefully you won't twist your ankle like I did last year, but
You look funny.
oh yeah, it was a great walk up until that.
I'll call the question on, motion to receive. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Kent. All those in favor, opposed, motion carries. There's minutes from the committee of the whole of July 25th, regular business meeting of September 5th, special business meeting of September 5th, committee of the whole of September 11th, and committee of the whole of September 12th. Move that they be approved. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Kent. All those in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. Were there any errors or omissions? I forgot to ask that. Didn't see any. There's recommended motions from the September 12th meeting. The council received the downtown public engagement summary dated September 12th, 2017 for information, and that council endorsed options B, D, E, G, K, and L, including the report from Community Planning Infrastructure report dated July 25th, 2017 for revision of bylaw 2513-2016, and that council provides staff with direction on potential parking amendments to the zoning bylaw. Moved by,
Yeah, I'll move it.
moved by Councillor Chantal, seconded by Councillor Rock'n'Roll.
I was just looking for clarity on the actual, in our agenda today, and even in the minutes, I couldn't find where the recommendations is. The numbers 170, 175 do not lead to what the recommendations are. So is
I
that,
didn't understand what you said.
the right, BD, all the letter names, there's nowhere in our agenda where you can actually see what those recommendations are, and it refers
They're
to
in last week's report.
exactly that, last week's.
They're in the report that was
So-
in front of council last week.
Exactly, but if there are recommendations that we're moving today, those recommendations, if people are picking up an agenda, it'd be nice to be able to reference what we're moving in today's agenda. So just for public, I know I was there, but when people are reading the report and it says go to 170, 175, it'd be nice to have the actual recommendations in there.
I'm not sure where you're going to go to 170.
At the motion, where it says page number.
The electronic agenda, we get page
Yeah.
numbers.
Oh, in the PDF agenda, it's not in there. Anyway,
Yeah, so that's.
maybe I just need to be clarified which agenda we're talking about.
Might be clear to
But it's
have.
not, yes.
The 170, 175 refers to the minutes themselves that are being approved. So when you go and you read the minutes, you see there was an item on that agenda, and you can go backwards, engineer it from there on our website. You can go to the agendas for that day and to that meeting and see the report.
So
There's a link. to
there
the
is
agenda.
not, so in our electronic agenda, when you go into there, it says 170, 175, and you go to the minutes, and the minutes don't include the
No.
recommendation.
But that's a good point, because I'm thinking we could probably link to those
Yeah.
reports, right?
So yeah, if you're opening your agenda, or if you're a public member and you want to see what that agenda item is, it'd be nice to, if it says 170 to 175, to be able to go to the report and read what the recommendations are.
If
that
you can
relate-
facilitate that for people,
I think we can.
thanks.
Thank you.
We get reports in different ways, because I don't
Yeah.
have that in mind. So, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I had the report last week that to refer to, but if I want to pull up the report,
Yeah, you have to go to last week's agenda. Okay, is there any business arising from that? Seeing none. Did we call a question on that?
No.
I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Committee reports. There, I have to go through all this, yes. Finance and audit, there is the minutes of the finance and audit meeting held September 5th to be received, moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Kent. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. That the minutes from the Public Arts Select Committee of September 6th being received. I'll move that. So there's seconders, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And just on that note, we'll hopefully see some of our hydro boxes. I think there's 6 of them coming up. They're going to be wrapped, so that'll be cool. That was a project we did with BC Hydro. There's committee appointments that Swayze Esfakos be appointed to the Public Art Committee as a Squamish Nation representative for 1-year term ending September 30th, and that Natchik Willentowick be appointed to the Public Art Committee as a member who is a Squamish artist for 1-year term ending in September 30th, 2018. I'll move that, seconded by Councilor Black and Wolf. Really pleased that we have Swayze on the Public Art Committee, and that the nation is going to be there, and she'll be just fantastic. And Natchik has been on it before, adds a tremendous amount of value, very experienced guy, so I'm really pleased he's coming back on with me. Community Development Standing Committee of September 12th, received for information, moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And there's a committee recommendation that staff participate in the technical committee and help in the creation of the terms of reference and the scheduling for the first meeting of where the chair and secretary are named, and that staff attend the technical committee as a stakeholder and provide input, but do not lead the committee given the federal interest of provincial ownership. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Kent. And just on that, some discussion was, we really need to make sure the feds in the province are leading this, but we really need to make sure that we're pushing them to lead it and that we keep driving this forward. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Council staff in-camera announcements? I don't know. There is no unscheduled public attendance. Open question period for clarification related to agenda items. Any questions?
I have one.
You don't have 5 questions?
I don't have 5 questions.
Okay, one question.
Just one, a quick one.
Awesome.
You
Come
have
up.
to go to the mic though.
Yeah, you have to go to the microphone.
Sounds good.
And introduce yourself.
Right, yeah, my name's Haley Ritchie. I'm the Chief's new part-time reporter. I think I've almost introduced myself to everyone today,
Awesome.
but nice to meet you all. I just had a quick question to clarify for Councillor Chappelle, I guess. It kind of went by quickly, that motion on the Perth Avenue letter. I was wondering what you're hoping, which committee it would go to, it would be referred
That would
to?
come to either the chair of the Community Development Committee or the Public Services Committee, and staff and myself will work with those committee chairs to determine which agenda it will be on. So we
Okay.
have so many items, we just gotta figure out where we can slot it. So it's just a scheduling thing.
Perfect. And for Councillor Chappelle, what were you hoping? You mentioned 30 kilometers there. Are you hoping that the speed limits will change, or what would you like the committee to look at?
I'd like the community to basically examine what the benefits of moving to 30 kilometers. I think many of us who travel around and see them, have seen, and many communities are moving towards 30 kilometers an hour in the residential neighborhoods. The difference in healthcare costs, the difference in safety for kids is greatly increased. Healthcare costs are reduced and safety is increased for kids going to school. We already have safe routes to school. I would like to see our community move towards slower speed limits in the residential neighborhoods. We have a highway. If you want to go fast, you can go fast.
I suspect there's a number of speed reducing mitigation considerations. Among them is speed limit, in either specific or community-wide. But it'll be a broad conversation about how do we make sure our streets are safe for kids.
And that's only my personal view. I look forward to council's interaction to see where
I'm sure we all have a personal view on this one.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Okay.
But we're gonna have that discussion at committee, so.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That's it.
Councillor staff announcements. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to congratulate the Squamish Climate Action Network for a very successful first ever farm-to-table dinner that they had out in the Squamish Valley at the Organic Hops Farm. It was a sold-out event. It was fantastic. They got the most beautiful weather, and they just put it together so well, and just was great evidence of an amazing meal that you can put together with local producers. Good on them.
Anybody else? A few things. Started drop-in with the mayor. We're doing them the first and third Wednesday of the month. And everyone's welcome. We encourage council to just come. We had one person come at the last one, which was great. And it just, we get a lot of requests just to meet and talk about various community issues. So it's just an opportunity for the community to come in and have a conversation, bring things to our attention. Happy to see things if people have safety issues on streets, come and talk to us. We've gotten some feedback that people would like to see something, not just during the day. It's a little more of a logistical issue, trying to figure out how to do a drop-in at night at the office because we don't have staff around and there's no entranceway and stuff. But we're going to try to figure out some nighttime ones as well, possibly in different locations. We're just working through logistics on that. Went to the grand opening of the Rope Runner. It was pretty cool. There was an 8-year-old girl's birthday party. There was like 12 little 8-year-old girls all running around gleefully, scaring themselves a little bit with the height of the Rope Runner, but just having a great time. And congratulations to that group, local group, putting that in the community. Just looking at my notes here, went to, Chuckman Center at the North Vancouver Outdoor School, went to the Reconciliation Post celebration, so Blue Shores and the North Vancouver Outdoor School, the Chuckman Center commissioned Rick Carey Hallockton to do a beautiful reconciliation pole at the Outdoor Center. It's absolutely stunning. Makes me want to do something at Squamish. Really beautiful, lots of meaning. I always find it, when you go to these First Nation ceremonies, they're so rich in tradition and meaning and all these things, and then we do these like ribbon cuttings, which are so sort of, you know, but it really was profound, and Rick is Hallockton's just such a talented guy. We're so lucky to have him beautify our community in this way, and the Chuckman Center is doing a remarkable job at educating young people on the importance of the environment and the importance of reconciliation. So it was a lovely, lovely event. It is UBCM season, and we're trying to we've set up a number of meetings with ministers. We're setting up more. It's interesting going through meetings with the new government. So far, so good. Looking forward to lots more progressive moving forward of issues with them. And one other thing, on Saturday we have kids sports and Jumpstart sort of kickoff events for the season happened at Brennan Park. Staff did a great job working with all the organizations, all the sports groups. Lots of people participated, all sorts of cool stuff going on, and we presented monies to help make sure every kid in town has an opportunity to participate in activities and sports in our community. And I think this is just the beginning. It was $2,500 between the two organizations to make sure kids can participate in sport and activity. Hopefully we're going to increase that significantly in the future. So we'll start. And what's coming up this week? Rivers Day. Yeah.
Sea Sky Orchestra is playing on Friday night at the Gondola. If anybody is interested in classical music, it's not often you get to hear a full orchestra playing in our community. So if anybody wants to come up and listen, it's at the Sea Sky Gondola. I think it's 7 o'clock.
Awesome. Hopefully it's warm. Anything else? Don't see anything. Motion to terminate. Moved by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Kent. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.